You ready?
Good morning to all of our listeners. We are here once again, super excited, live and in person with the More Motivation
Yep. Yep.
Podcast. I am the co-host, Troy Christopher Moore. We're here with the founder and the president, Mr. Kendrick Moore. Good morning, Kendrick. How you doing this morning?
Man, listen, to be able to do this again, you know, we were
Let's do
received,
it.
and especially too, we received some excellent feedback the last time
Yes.
for people finally getting the chance to really see us in person. So, man, listen, it's a blessing to be able to do this. Like I said, glad you back in town for us to be able to kind of capture this again, and we're excited, locked in, ready to go.
Let's make this happen,
Yep.
man. We live and direct. We making big things happen here at More Motivation. So before we even get into this particular podcast for this particular week, as we do a shout out
Yes. Yes.
for local community, business partners, people that we know. So, what's the
Yep.
shout out
Yep.
that we have for this week?
And Troy, so we're gonna switch it up a little bit this week. So
Okay,
I know we
okay,
usually shout out the businesses and whatever, but you know we talk about basketball, but I do want to say, like, for what we saw in the NBA during the regular season,
yep.
the playoffs has been a lot different.
Mm,
So, you know, I'm just really excited to see some competitive basketball, man.
got you,
And especially we were
got you,
talking about even like
got you,
Kawhi being back, like
got
after injury, how much we felt we were cheated
you.
because we thought
Yeah,
he was going to be that guy, offense, defense, just a multifaceted player. But it's really good to see like complete competition in these playoffs. This is something we've
yeah,
been waiting for. But I really want to say this though, because and shout out to all of the coaches and people that's holding people to a high standard and accountable. Like
yeah.
so many people, Troy sent me this video of Coach Mazzulla from the Celtics
Oh
when
yeah,
Jason
yeah.
Tatum fell, and he ain't allowed a trainer to go out there. He was yelling, "Get up!" from the sideline.
Yeah.
Officials will obviously look at that.
Because that's something that I did. That's something that I do. Like, I'm the guy that I'm not going out on the court.
Like, get up. And here's the deal, Ryan. I don't just say it to you. When I coach the girls at Windsor, if any of the girls ever fell on the court, I'm not running out there to pick them up. I'm saying, get off the floor. And then if she can't get up, she's probably hurt. But when she hear my voice, she better get up. If she can. We're not doing all that baby stuff they do to y'all. Get up. Here we go.
Right.
And it's that get up part. So, you know, and that reference was, man, be tough. Like,
Right.
get off the floor. He ain't try to
Right.
dismiss him being hurt or anything like
Right.
that. But it's
Right.
like, don't show the opponent that you hurt. If you can walk,
Exactly.
you know, get to that free throw line.
Exactly.
So, you know, for people that's holding people accountable, we want to get back to that as well.
Awesome, awesome. And the NBA, the playoffs, I must agree, they have stepped it up,
Yep. Yep.
a little bit, because I was the one that was like an NBA basher, like I ain't doing this.
Right.
But they
Right.
have stepped it up. So
Right.
shout out to the NBA players
sure,
for doing that,
for sure.
stepping it up to that, making accountability. So
Yep.
now let's get into last week.
Mhm.
Let's just talk about last week.
Yep.
The feedback we got regarding Swipe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
just share some of that feedback and some inspiring words to hear from individuals
Yeah.
about last week's
Yeah.
podcast.
I think people really tied into it, and adults tied into this one a lot because it made references to it's not just a kid thing,
Right.
like it's an
Right.
adult thing, and they understand it because when we talk about the negative impacts of social media, we understand the content is in the moment.
Yeah.
But when we talk about swipe, it's a habit that gets developed.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things or reasons why the adults tied into it, because they understand that process and what habits can do to you.
Right.
You know, what bad habits, how much, you know, what they can lead to if you don't
Yeah.
correct them.
Right.
Right. And you made the reference of how long it takes to get rid of a habit. So people really locked in on that. And it's a true concept today. And as I mentioned, I'll challenge people. One of the negative concepts or things that's gained from social media is not just the content, it's that habit of being able to swipe to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. I mean, even with that particular that podcast, which I, not to be biased of being part of More Motivation, but that's definitely something that we could revisit.
Right. Right.
Just based upon the information that was
Right,
shared. And
right.
to all of our listeners, this is why we love to hear from you, because
Exactly.
we continue to build upon the conversations that you share with us.
Right. Right.
So
right.
now let's move into this particular
Yeah.
week and this podcast app for this week. So what's the content? What's the words of wisdom and advice we have for our listeners for this week?
Listen, this is a deep one, and it stuck with me over the past couple weeks, and it's about happiness. Like, the one thing that everyone wants to be, despite anything, the emotion we want to reach, the feeling we want inside, is to be happy. So we're going to really discuss that, because the majority of people, they're just the opposite. They aren't happy.
Yeah, they're not happy. Yeah, that's just been, and that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of on site this week with my job, talking about that particular topic of happiness with the team members. So
Right.
let's get right into this. So let's just dive into this
Yeah.
topic.
And it started, well, I shouldn't say it started. This is a concept, like, I was almost holding on to this one, Troy, hoping that we would get back in person, because I felt this was one of them in-person conversations.
Yeah.
When we talk about happiness. It was confirmed, though, over the last week. Like, he's younger than me, won't disclose our age, but he's younger than me. But, he sees me as a mentor. He's an adult. And I'm shooting him these messages every now and then. I'll check in on him. And I said, man, how's it going?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when he responds, he usually responds based on how work's going, how his occupation, what he does with the kids, how that's going. He does a great job with football. He usually responds based on that. I said, I don't want to hear about your work. Like, how are you doing personally? Like, how are you feeling?
Right.
And I asked him directly. I said, are you happy? Troy, this is why this conversation is so important. His response, he said, he went through a little bit of something. So he said, man, I'm almost 40 years old right now. And me going through this ordeal, I never knew what happiness was until now.
Wow.
Like, at 40.
Wow.
He feels that he never experienced happiness until right now.
Yeah.
So that's why this conversation is so important. And when I'm going into different venues and I'm talking about these different conversations about how people are treating each other,
Yeah.
I always go back to the words you use towards people are a great indication of how you feel inside. And I throw up, especially if they're all levels, youth to adults.
Right.
But when I'm with the youth, it's funny because I'll use the inside out characters, right? And I'll throw up the blue character. They all say sadness. They all know how to relate to that.
Right.
Just the other day, why is that so relevant to? Because we know how to relate to that character of sadness.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing we want is just the opposite, joy and happiness. So like I said, that's why I wanted to talk about this, because so many people are truly void of happiness.
Wow. I mean, that's so huge. And one of the things is we don't even realize how many people are watching us. And they can kind of discern and even see.
Right.
I'm sure that's one of the things that prompted you to ask that question
That's right.
to him.
That's right.
Because we kind of operate on the exterior.
That's right. On the surface.
On the surface stuff. So now what is you think is the biggest misconception with understanding happiness?
Yeah. So just even with what you just said, Troy, with you get a chance to see people and we go through this life not understanding that happiness is an internal thing. Like, so many people try to control that with exterior things.
Right.
Happiness is an internal feeling. Like, you can't just say, I'm gonna think of something and be happy.
Right.
It's an overall feeling that you have.
Right.
And when you're truly happy, see, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean things go well every day. But when you're truly happy, you tend to find this thing of it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you go through it, it doesn't really break you. Those things get compartmentalized exactly the way they should because internally you're happy, like you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So when things happen, you keep it in that space.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things to really truly understand about this conversation about being happy. Like it's an internal thing. It's not a surface thing. It's not an outer thing that we really control every day.
Right.
Like we got to make sure that from a young age, if you and as you mentioned, you're not even aware of it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not aware of it. You see how many people walk around smiling? I never judge that as being happy or sad.
Correct. Correct.
Never judge that.
Correct.
Just because somebody's smiling.
Right.
Because internally, they feel just like that blue character that we was talking about a second ago, sadness inside.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the tricky parts when we're working with people, talking to different people, even with how you might be feeling, is understanding real, true happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real, true happiness. So, I just wanted to really touch on that, Troy, because it's so important. This conversation, it's a real deep conversation.
Yes, it is.
We treat it as just, happy or sad, and there's no real value placed on it. Like there's a heavy weight that comes with happiness and unhappiness.
That's correct.
A heavy weight.
Yeah.
And I don't think we give it its true measure of how detrimental it can be when we're unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. We like I had a couple that came to me, married couple.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife was saying, what a great afternoon they had. It was their anniversary. What a great evening they had.
Right.
He brought gifts and, just wonderful. And the next morning they woke up, he said he wanted a divorce.
Yep.
And I kind of thought about that, like, this is something that's been festering for a while. This wasn't just, let me wake up tomorrow and just do this.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we're masking this stuff.
For sure.
And we're not really understanding
For
that.
sure. For sure.
So talk to us about when you see people trying to make up for the lack of happiness by doing different things. What's your thoughts on that?
So, and a part of this, right, is with me thinking of this conversation about happiness. It's really about being unfulfilled. So I'll talk about both of these parts of this, Troy, when people think the exterior things, right?
Yeah.
If I buy something that makes me feel better in the moment, they
Right.
think that makes them happy.
Right. Right.
If I'm able to buy a car, if I'm able to buy a house, like we just automatically think these things that we can purchase define our happiness. It may put a smile on your face, but a lot of times when you do those things, they aren't even for you.
Correct.
You will say, I'm gonna buy the most expensive thing because why? You want other people to think that you're happy.
Right.
You want other people to think that.
Right.
So you fall into that trap of thinking that if I get things, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
But there's a real deep part, Troy, when we talk about unfulfilled. I want us to think about this because I like to put percentages on it. Like, especially when we talk about the weight of happiness versus unhappiness. If you're 60% happy, see, we're not playing that game they played in a movie. You complete me. No, we're not doing that.
Right.
If you 60% happy, for the remainder of your life, we all seek joy. You're going to be looking for someone or something to fulfill that other 40%.
Correct. Right.
Whether that thing, whether that person or whatever. Here's the deal. this is the crazy part. If they fulfill 39%, you're still not happy.
Right. Right.
Like, that's how important what the thing to understand when it comes to this thing, unhappiness.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
happiness has a real value.
Mm-hmm.
And if you 90%, this is why some people, the more happy they are on their own, if I'm 90% happy and I'm only needing 10 more percent, because here's the thing, nobody's 100%. There is not a soul on this earth that's 100% happy.
Right.
Let's forget about that conversation.
Right.
If I'm at 90 and I'm seeking the other 10, but my 90 is still puts me in that high percentile where happiness shows more than not.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to understand that when we're working with people, when we're dealing with people, and you wondering why they going in and out of these different moods, you better believe that has to do with how happy they are inside.
Correct.
And the thing is, when they bounce from person to person, they're looking for each person to fulfill that other percentage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when they don't get it from you, that's even more detrimental because they put the burden on you.
Yeah.
So we got to understand that, man. This thing is heavy.
Yes, it is.
Like, the weight of happiness is very heavy. I don't think we give it the attention that it deserves. That's why the conversation stuck with me. I'm 100% certain when he followed up with that message, it was like confirmation. Make sure you talk about this because more people want to hear it.
Right.
They may not be saying it to you, Silk,
Right.
but most people are
wanna
going
hear it.
through this thing and they need this message right now.
Right. I'm telling you, this is fascinating that we're having this topic because this is why I was brought into the office this week.
Wow.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
in regards to some of the things that we're doing with
Right.
DEI.
Right. Yep.
And a conversation came up about one of my team members. This is why it's so important about this conversation, us seeking out, asking individuals.
Right.
She was one of my top performers, and her work started to decline. And I could have just said, hey, you know what? You got to get yourself together. You know what I mean? Your work got to be your work.
Right.
I said to her, is everything okay? And she burst in tears. And I'm like, okay, like what's going on? And she said, Mr. Moore, I'm about to be evicted. I said, okay. You know, so I know some people with 211, got her some services, helped her out, and they not only paid back 3 months rent, but they paid 3 months forward.
Wow.
Right? But what impacted me most about that, obviously, we didn't want to see her in the streets.
Right.
But what impacted me the most was she said, Mr. Moore, no one has seen how unhappy I was. Wow. You're the only one that saw beyond the surface. And you prompted the question, right? So now, what I want you to do is, as we get ready to close out this week, is there a way that we can become better with prompting questions to individuals so that they feel safe enough to open up and share their heart to us?
Listen, man, Troy, and it took you, can you imagine that? Because I know coming up, you won't be coming in town one of the months because you were saying like you're going to be, 2 months, 2 trips, so 1 month.
June. Yeah.
And I just say that because can you imagine if this was the month you weren't in town and maybe next month, now you talking about 5 months back rent.
Right.
With nobody seemingly caring about anything other than the work.
Correct.
Listen, when we talk about happiness, what's tied to it is hope.
Right.
Like, where would she have been? Forget about the happiness, the hope category at that point.
Yeah.
And also, it ties directly into our conversations, Troy, when we ask somebody how they're doing versus how they're feeling.
Right.
You know, And we
Big
talked
difference.
about your role in people's lives as someone that's willing to ask how someone's feeling because you're equipped enough to deal with them when they start talking about it.
Right.
Not everybody's there.
Right.
So that could have been one of the things too. Like when people avoid that, sometimes it ain't intentional. They might see how you're acting. They might notice this sense of sadness, unhappiness, that you're unfulfilled, that something's going on.
Yeah.
They might know they're not equipped to deal with what might come out their mouth if they say, man, is everything truly okay with you? But you knew that you were equipped to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's why you're in that position. We talked about it our last time we were together in person when you were talking about being able to manage. And we said it ain't always about the individual degrees and everything that gets you in that position. Like, man, why is he in that position to be the one with they giving caseload of 21 or whatever that might look like? Because they know you can handle that.
Yeah.
You can handle that. And that's the thing that others surrounding people need to be equipped with. Because when you start talking about conversations with happiness, the person that's talking need to understand the weight of it.
Yes.
When I asked that gentleman, is he happy? I'm able to absorb whatever he was going to give back to me. Right? Whether he said yes or no. So he said yes. We said, let's take it to another level now. He said no. I mean, if he would have said no, now all of a sudden I'm equipped to walk with him because he's also exposed other things to me.
Correct.
You know, so that part is critical as well, Troy. Being able to be equipped to deal with this. You know, because we rely on each other in certain cases. The less our percentage of being happy, the more we reach out to others in those cases, hopefully. But those other people that are in those positions, we know that range is huge.
Yes.
When we say Troy, when I walk into different people today, especially in the climate today, the majority of people are unhappy.
Oh my gosh.
The majority of people are unfulfilled in some way.
Yeah.
And they're seeking happiness, and it's our job to make sure we're equipped here at More Motivation to deal with it. So lock in.
Listeners, listen. This has been a tremendous podcast, as it always is. We wanted to really dig deep and kind of speak to what's going on in today's climate and people's personal lives. So hit us up. You know, we love to hear your feedback. Thank you once again. Thank you for all the support that you have given More Motivation up to this particular point. And again, we want to hear from you because this helps us to build future podcasts.
That's right.
Have a marvelous week. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, make sure you're happy.
That's right.
Take care.
Lock in.
I just want to thank my son, Kenrick Moore, for dedicating his life to helping our youth. I know it's a tough task, but keep up the good work with More Basketball Clinic. I'm proud of the man you have become. I love you.